apartment closes at 11 p.m. But almost every night around 2 in the morning, someone still uses the swings. Slow creaking, back and forth, back and forth. One night, I finally looked outside my window. The swings were moving violently, like someone was pumping their legs as hard as they could, except the playground was completely empty. No children, no people, nothing. The next morning, someone posted in the neighborhood group chat, "Did anyone else hear noises from the park last night?" Nobody replied, until one person wrote something that made me close my curtains immediately. "Don't look toward the swings after midnight." That is exactly what makes parks terrifying. During the day, they feel harmless. Families, children laughing, joggers waving at strangers. Your brain labels them as safe automatically. But the moment darkness arrives, that same familiar place becomes something else entirely. Tonight, I have 3 real stories from real people. All 3 entered a park expecting nothing unusual. None of them left the same way. In October 2018, a 24-year-old student named Daniel was walking home through Riverside Park in Ohio after a late study session. He had taken the same route dozens of times before. The shortcut saved nearly 20 minutes. Around midnight, the park was mostly empty. Wet pathways, cold wind, one flickering light near the basketball court. Daniel was scrolling through his phone when he noticed someone standing under the broken light. An older man, dark jacket, head lowered, completely still. Daniel ignored him and kept walking. But after a few minutes, something started bothering him. The man had not moved once, not shifting his weight, not checking a phone, not looking around, just standing there like a statue beneath the flickering light. Then Daniel's phone battery died. The park suddenly felt much quieter than before. He looked back toward the basketball court. The old man was gone. Relief hit instantly until Daniel heard footsteps behind him. Slow, deliberate, matching his pace perfectly. When Daniel slowed down, the footsteps slowed too. When he walked faster, they sped up immediately. He tried convincing himself it was another person using the same path. Then he realized something. He had not passed anyone else since entering the park. Daniel turned around near the bridge crossing the pond. The hooded figure stood 30 feet behind him, completely silent. The moment Daniel faced him directly, the figure stopped moving. No words, no reaction. Then slowly, the figure began walking toward him again. Daniel turned and kept moving. Faster now. He reached the middle of the bridge and looked back. The figure was gone. His chest loosened slightly. He turned forward and nearly collapsed. The same man was now standing at the opposite end of the bridge, waiting. Daniel ran. He never stopped until he reached the street outside the park entrance. Police searched the area afterward. Nobody was found. But Daniel still says the worst part was not the chase. It happened later that night after charging his phone. One photo had been taken automatically at 12:34 a.m. Daniel does not remember taking it. The image showed the bridge, empty, except for a blurry figure standing at the far end, facing directly toward the camera. A woman named Sarah worked long hospital shifts and often came home emotionally exhausted. One night after work, she stopped at a small neighborhood park near her apartment. The place was quiet except for a sleeping security guard near the entrance. Sarah sat alone on a swing listening to voice notes from a friend. Then she heard crying, somewhere deeper inside the park, soft at first, like a little girl crying in complete darkness. Sarah stood immediately. "Hello?" No answer. Only crying. Worried someone needed help, Sarah turned on her phone flashlight and walked toward the sound. The deeper she went into the park, the weaker the lights became. Then suddenly the crying stopped. Total silence. Sarah froze in the middle of the path. Her phone buzzed. A WhatsApp voice note from an unknown number, then another, then another. 3 voice notes arrived within seconds from a contact that did not exist. Hands shaking, Sarah pressed play on the first recording. Static, then footsteps moving across dry leaves, then heavy breathing, then her own voice said clearly, "Hello? Is someone there?" Those were the exact words she had spoken only moments earlier. Sarah felt her stomach drop. She pressed the second recording. Running footsteps this time. But Sarah was standing completely still. Then another set of footsteps appeared in the recording, following closely behind the first pair, getting louder, closer. Sarah ran. Behind her, leaves crunched rapidly through the darkness. Something moved beside her through the trees, matching her speed perfectly. Keeping pace, she reached the park entrance screaming. The security guard woke instantly. Both of them looked back toward the trail, empty. No movement, no figure, nothing. Then Sarah's phone buzzed again. One final voice note. 3 seconds long. She pressed play. Silence first. Then a calm whisper. "You were slower this time." Sarah nearly dropped her phone. When she tried showing the messages to the security guard, the conversation had disappeared completely. Every recording was gone, as if nothing had ever arrived at all. Sarah never returned to that park again. But one detail still terrifies her years later. In the final recording behind the whispering voice, she could clearly hear herself crying, even though she did not start crying until after reaching the gate. Samuel was a 40-year-old maintenance worker who handled overnight shifts inside a large city park in Illinois. One winter night around 2 a.m., he drove a small utility cart near the lake, checking electrical equipment. While passing the empty playground, he noticed something that stopped him immediately. A young girl is sitting alone on one of the swings, pale yellow raincoat, and floating directly beside her, it was a bright red balloon. The string was not tied to anything. No wind moved through the playground, yet the balloon kept drifting slowly upward, like something invisible was holding it in place. Temperatures had dropped dangerously low overnight. The park had been closed for hours. Samuel drove closer, intending to help the child find her parents. That was when he noticed the swing. The girl sat perfectly still, but the swing continued moving back and forth smoothly, constantly. Without slowing, without wind, Samuel called out, asking if she was okay. The girl never reacted. He got within 15 feet. The swing stopped instantly. The girl slowly raised one arm and pointed toward the lake. Samuel turned automatically toward the water, only for 1 second. When he looked back, the swing was empty. The red balloon was gone too. Samuel stepped closer, carefully, and shone his flashlight toward the ground. No footprints surrounded the swing, none at all, except for his own tracks leading toward the playground. A few seconds later, something softly bumped against his shoulder. Samuel turned. The red balloon floated directly beside his face, close enough to touch him. The string hung downward motionless, as if someone invisible was holding it. Samuel backed away immediately. Then the balloon suddenly drifted backward toward the darkness near the lake, slowly, almost inviting him to follow. Samuel left the playground immediately and never returned alone after that night. Less than 2 weeks later, he quit the job entirely. Even now, he refuses to describe what he saw near the water after the balloon disappeared into the darkness. Whenever people ask him about it, he changes the subject immediately. Maybe that is exactly what makes real horror linger far longer than fiction. It does not start with something dramatic. It starts with a figure standing slightly too still, footsteps matching yours on an empty path, a voice note from a number that does not exist. A child sitting somewhere is never. All 3 of these people entered a park expecting absolutely nothing unusual. They were doing ordinary things. walking home, taking a break after work, finishing a shift, and then something changed. Something that still refuses to make sense, no matter how many times they replay it. Parks feel safe because your brain connects them to daylight, laughter, and families. But once the crowds disappear and the lights dim, those same open spaces become something else entirely. The next time you walk through an empty park after dark, you might notice the silence differently. You might glance twice at someone standing just a little too still. You might feel something behind you and hesitate before turning around. That awareness might matter more than you realize, because some places only feel safe because nothing has happened there to you personally, yet. If tonight's stories kept you up, subscribe, because next week's stories are worse.